Hi everyone, it's Raina. So this video is looking at the astrological chart of Justin Bieber. I'm not really crazy about doing artists that I'm not too familiar with just because it's hard for me to kind of tie into some of the influences and talk about certain things that I know about them. Even though like Britney, I have a chart analysis of Britney Spears, and even though back then I was still a lot older, I was already in my 20s, I think, or how old was I then? I was pretty up there in my 20s when she came into her success. I still, listened to those songs and watched the videos. So I have something to go on, and I knew all the drama about different phases of her life. Justin Bieber is way after when I just kind of gave up on pop music, basically. And I just did Avril Lavigne's chart, and so it's pretty interesting that both of these artists are from Ontario, Canada, and that well, I thought they were like contemporaries, but I guess Justin is 10 years younger than Avril. She was born in 84 and he was born in 94. So I was kind of hazy about his heyday, so to speak, and apparently he was discovered in 2008, which would make him, let's see, probably about 14, 13 or 14, probably more likely 14 when he was first discovered. And then who brought him to the USA was Usher. And so anyway, I'm done with that conversation because there are things happening right now that are dealing with certain people, because I'm not going to here's what I'm going to talk about with this chart. I am going to look at, okay, are there any indications of his talent artistically? Are there any indications that he may have suffered from abuse? And are there any indications of his teen heartthrob status? And someone might say, well, that doesn't even matter. That doesn't have anything to do with a person's talent. But you have to understand that these teen idols are just a part of our culture for many years. And when I was, preteen, for me, it was somebody like Sean Cassidy and Andy Gibb, okay? And the earlier generation, it might have been Michael Jackson when he was a little kid, or it might have been Donny Osmond or something like that. There's always like this kind of like cute factor where they have, chubby little cheeks, and they have the boys, they have this kind of a kind face, non-threatening type of face. And so Justin Bieber definitely fit that mold. And when he got older, obviously he was an adult, so he's going to look like an adult. And of course, that's when the backlash began. I personally think, from watching recent videos of him, that he is giving out messages that he has been through a lot from the industry. And I also think that he is probably a good person. I think, he is a Pisces, and Pisces people sometimes they have that Christ complex. Well, I shouldn't call it a complex all the time, because they might have that kind of karmic situation going on where they are given extra things to work out because they're old souls, And I'm not saying that's going to be true 100% of the time, but he does have planets in the 12th house. That is the house of Pisces in astrology, and it can be unfinished business, but it also can have a good side, and I'll explain that when I get there. So Justin Bieber was born on March 1st, 1994, which I believe would make him Generation Z, or he might be at the tail end of millennials. I don't know. That doesn't sound right because I think millennials started in 82. No, maybe it is. Maybe until 94. So he's somewhere at the end of that or the beginning of Generation Z. And that generation is, yeah, he does have Neptune in Capricorn though, and it's not at the last degree. He's probably, I have a feeling he's a millennial. And these younger people, younger generations are highly psychic. I don't know if we would call somebody like him a crystal child, but basically they have like the rainbow children, the crystal children, but basically they come in highly sensitive, and that's why, and I've been guilty of this, I have to admit, that's why people call them snowflakes and things like that, and why they've been hijacked and exploited with, here's a, pill because you're sensitive and you can take this, that kind of thing. Because I believe that there are certain people who are in positions of power who know these esoteric things, and they know exactly how to infiltrate those people's minds. And by the way, I'm not saying that all meds are all the time not indicated for people. I'm just talking about in a massive way. And this is the thing that, and the reason that it has occurred, and even like ADD, ADHD, we're just looking at, okay, you can't sit still in a seat, when these people may have so much energy that they could be using to heal others, to contribute to things. This is why there are so many diverse learners, and why it's getting harder and harder to have a public school setting where everyone can learn at the same pace. So, more people are homeschooling because these children are like that. And somebody born in 1994 would certainly fit that bill. And I always thought that he started out by making videos and posting them on YouTube. I don't see anything about that here. I heard that somebody discovered him and then he was off to the races. So, not that it really matters, but I just wanted to bring that up. Well, I guess it does kind of matter because the third house is the house of social media, and he has a stellium there. He has 4 planets, and that's pretty significant. So there might be some truth in that they just didn't bother to share. Because I could have sworn that he was doing that before, and that's how he did get discovered. So anywho, I'm just going to talk about his inner planets. So he's a sun in Pisces. He has a moon in Libra. Mercury's in Aquarius. Venus is in Pisces. Mars is in Aquarius. And Scorpio rising, which is very interesting because Scorpio, to me, even though it is harmonious with his sun sign, it doesn't aspect it because it's too far apart. So, but they're fellow water signs, so there is a consistency there. But the reason I'm going, ooh, what's all this about, is because Scorpio is a sign, and at the ascendant, you really wouldn't expect for a heartthrob. I'm talking about like a child heartthrob. Maybe an adult male who kind of gives off this like dangerous vibe. But usually I would expect his ascendant to be in Libra and be kind of cutesy wootsy, and maybe his moon in Scorpio if he has to have Scorpio at all as a heartthrob. Because there's something about Scorpio that can be very intimidating to others. And the whole idea of a heartthrob, a teenage heartthrob, is that it feels very safe. I definitely get the vibe from my brief interactions watching video of him as an adult that he does have a very intuitive way about him and a very sensitive side. I saw recently, they were trying to make him out to be, oh wow, he's really effed up. He's, very gaunt. He must be on drugs. And he was, I guess, coming into his hotel, apartment, whatever it was, where there were fans gathered outside. And he was kind of like, oh man, you gotta chill and blah, blah, blah. But he was very gentle with them. He was not mean to them. And he was talking to them like a real person, like a regular person, like he was just like them. And that is way cool. Okay. That to me alone means that he's good people, to me, that he's not putting himself on a pedestal. And he was just trying to kind of reason with them emotionally. I know that sounds contradictory, but I think you know what I mean. And I just found that very endearing. And oh yeah, reason with them emotionally. Libra is an air sign. So there's going to always be that intellectual component with his emotions. He might be very good at explaining away his emotions. So when somebody has the sun in Pisces and the moon in Libra, they may have difficulty sometimes with this sense of assertion. I do believe, because Scorpio is at the ascendant, that might be mitigated, because Scorpio is pretty fierce, and it means that his rulers are Mars and Pluto, and you don't mess with Mars and Pluto. Let's put it that way. So I think that in a sense is a saving grace, where it's kind of like the guard dog that kind of guards this very gentle soul. But he's really probably a major pushover if you can get past that veneer. That might be quite fierce. And definitely that Pisces-Libra combination speaks to the artist, definitely. The weird thing is his midheaven is in Virgo. You would expect him to be in healthcare. You would expect him maybe to be a healer, because Pisces can definitely be a healer. And who knows, maybe at some point in his life, if he decides to kind of put his music on the back burner, he may explore something like the healing arts and do something like that. I was just reading about some musicians, namely, there were a couple of them who went into becoming EMTs or paramedics. Gosh, I can't think of one of them, but one of them was David Lee Roth, of all people, which just kind of, I can't even like wrap my brain around that. But there was someone else who was pretty prominent too who did that. And, there might have been something within themselves that was interested in that for whatever reason. So certainly somebody like Justin, especially if he feels that spiritually he has this gift that he needs to share with others. And he does have, oh yeah, baby, he has the North Node, which is his soul's mission, in the 12th house. That's Pisces domain. Spiritual AF. And also it's in Scorpio, which can be the transformation agent. So his sun is highly intuitive. His Mercury in Aquarius is highly intuitive. Aquarius is also associated with that intuitive abilities. Is Venus is exalted in Pisces. Venus is exalted in Pisces. By the way, if I think his wife's name is Haley. Is it Haley or Haley? I think it's Haley. And Haley, I don't know what her sign is, but I saw this thing, and I did not know that she was the daughter of one of the Baldwin brothers. So it is a small world, isn't it? And that makes me very interested too, because, you have all this, I don't want to call it inbreeding in the Hollywood community, but there's a lot of this kind of, I don't want to use the word incestuous, but it is, they're getting together like that. And there's actual video of when he first met Haley, when he was like, they were both like 12 or something like that. So I always think of soulmates, and having the North Node in the 12th house and in Scorpio could be indicative of that. Okay. And it is like absolutely precious, because she was very shy. She was like a 12 or 13-year-old, and she was kind of looking down, and, he was meeting her eyes. It's like if you had video of the first time you met your significant other, how cool that would be. And it's out there on YouTube for anybody to see. But Venus in Pisces in its exaltation means unconditional love. And that I don't want to get too involved in that, but I will say that I'm not necessarily that impressed with this particular exaltation because of the nature of Pisces and what it tends to do in love, which is very self-sacrificial. And people might say, well, that is a sign of somebody who really loves another person, where they're putting that person's needs first. And that is true. However, I also think it can lead to falling in love with the wrong person. I also think it can be wanting and attracting your soulmate. So I think it can be either one of those situations. And maybe in some cases, when I do these type of videos with analyzing famous people, I'm also talking to the people out there who have some of these placements or aspects or what have you. And if you have Venus in Pisces and you're like, oh, I have been through hell and back with my relationship history, that may very well be, but you could meet the one at some point in your life. So definitely do not give up if you have the North Node in the 12th house and you've had a hellacious dating life, because it might be because you were meant to meet a specific person and the timing wasn't right. So Mars in Aquarius, and having Mercury and Mars in Aquarius, they are in conjunction with one another. So that, to me, that can really indicate a quick mind and somebody who is highly intelligent. Whether or not, I don't know how much schooling he's had, because he, got discovered when he was barely into his teens. Maybe he never went back to high school, but, that doesn't mean a hill of beans. That doesn't take away from natural intelligence. And I thought there was something where he made a reference to, like, that he really likes to read or something. I don't know if I'm confusing him with someone else. But in any case, I do feel that he's highly intelligent. It might be hidden behind a pretty face. And also somebody who is just extremely psychic. Because when you have, you have that Mercury in Aquarius, but then when it's in conjunction with Mars, it's kind of like instantaneous. Mars is, right away. And so it's possible that day that he laid eyes on Haley that he was like, okay, I'm going to marry her one day. And I think they're such a cute couple. I really do. I guess they have, maybe they haven't had like a perfect road that they've been traveling together, but they seem to be soulmates to me. And they've been together since they were very young, as I understand it. So, and another thing I want to say about Scorpio rising is if there was something in his past, like a checkered past, I'm not talking about him specifically, but within his family of origin, or any kind of thing, because I see here, which kind of is sad to see, is that he has the classic angle for abuse, which is Mars square Pluto. Now, he also has a conjunction between Mars and Saturn. Saturn can be the father or authority figure. Mars can be violence. Now, those of you who are conspiracy realists like me know that in the entertainment field, there is something called trauma-based mind control. MK Ultra and all that kind of stuff. Maybe there's probably different types of stuff like that. And so that's how what they do is they break the person so they have like these multiple personalities. And this is what they say happened with Britney. We know that part of his ascension in the music business, he was involved with these older men like Usher and Diddy. And so I'm just going to leave that there, but these kinds of things could be all connected to what I was trying to figure out. Even with Mars in the third house, it could be that kind of maybe something going on where the person is aggressively mind controlled. Third house is the mind. So he's got Saturn here with that conjunction, Mars, Saturn. And the sun is here. Yeah, I definitely think anybody with the sun in the third house is going to be an intellectual. They may not come across to others that way. Maybe at some point he will, but he already has this persona that people know him by. And that's one of the reasons why I'm scratching my head a little bit about Scorpio rising. Oh, you know what it could be? Oh, I know what it is. Okay, I have an explanation. Now that I look closer, his ascendant is 29 degrees of Scorpio. So it is on the cusp of Sagittarius. And I would say that the Sag energy is coming through. A typical Scorpio rising individual would be very brooding. And I have done a video on Scorpio rising. So if you have Scorpio rising, definitely check my channel, look it up, because it's one of the videos that I have the most hits on. All my videos are all like, most of my videos that have the highest number of hits have some kind of scorpionic theme, which is very hilarious. And I have the sun in the 8th house, so I'm just figuring it's that. I have the moon in conjunction with Pluto. And in Vedic astrology, I'm 29 degrees of Scorpio, so I just found that out. So that might be why. Maybe I'm just like into the seedy underbelly of life, and the Scorpios can really dig it, man. But I feel now I understand it because Sagittarius is a sign that is ruled by Jupiter, so it's going to have a cheerful demeanor. It's going to have a larger than life. There's a lot of celebrity, like in the music industry, like Elvis, Elton John, and who else? There was another one that's famous. Elvis, Elton John, and Bob Dylan all have or had Sagittarius rising. So that probably explains why he seems like kind of more, bright than you would typically expect. But one of the things that for Scorpio rising, in other words, but one thing that I did mention, which is I think is kind of funny, is that when you have Scorpio rising, I typically think that the person is swarthy, like they have kind of a dark complexion, kind of that brooding, sexy, but kind of dangerously sexy kind of look to them. And so for a woman, they call it being sultry. And I said, obviously they're going to be blonde hair, blue-eyed Scorpio risings, right? But I've also noticed that there are certain people, like celebrities, who are blonde and then they dye their hair black. And to me, they probably have Scorpio rising and they feel that urge because they want to convey a danger or something. Even if they have like pink skin or, real white skin, they really want to have that kind of exotic and dangerous, the dark hair kind of thing. And so anyway, I want to talk about some of these house placements because it might be give more information about what's going on with them. The second house of earned income, he's got Neptune and Uranus. I thought Avril Lavigne had something like that. I think she had Uranus. Uranus is the ruler of Aquarius, and it really speaks to sometimes it can speak to having, getting paid in show business because you're getting paid erratically. I'm sure there are some people who get paid every week and they are in a movie, maybe they get weekly paychecks, but when the movie's over with, they're not going to get those weekly paychecks. So it's like in show business, in those kinds of fields where there's no guarantee of when you're going to get paid, what you're going to get paid. That could be Uranus. To me, it can also be feast or famine, where sometimes you're like living large, maybe you're making millions of dollars, and then there are years when you're barely making anything and you're surviving on residual checks. Those kinds of things. If a person is doing something online, Uranus could be earning money online. Neptune could be the person who is earning money through the arts. It can also be somebody who is not necessarily that materialistic. Maybe they're like, I believe in God, and I believe that God is going to provide my sustenance. I have a video for people who have their natal Neptune in the second house, and I used as the thumbnail the Buddhist monks with their begging bowls, because that is an example of that kind of thing. And you have the Western monks doing the same thing where they take a vow of poverty, or they're not making money on their own, and they have to rely on the public for alms or whatever they call it. And sometimes when you have Neptune in the second house, you have to be careful about being swindled financially, because there can be gullibility. Sometimes Neptune can be that the person's financially naive, that they're too sympathetic about sob stories. Somebody knows that they're a soft touch, and then they, give them the sob story of like, oh, I lost my job and I don't have any money, and they know that this person's a Pisces and they're going to open their wallet out of sympathy, and they fleece them for all that they have, or something like that. In the fourth house, he has Venus. I believe the fourth house is the mother. Some people say the father. So it's basically maybe having one parent who's more of the aggressive one, who maybe is a problem, and then the other one is the saving grace that kind of balances it out. Oh, what's interesting? Talking about his heartthrob status, he has the moon in the 11th house. And I've read charts with women who have the moon in the 11th house, and it's like the 11th house is a house of friendships and groups. The moon is feminine. So if somebody has the moon in the 11th house, they're going to tend to have a lot of female friends. But because this can be the collective, and this could be maybe this is celebrity, that could indicate that he has a following among females. And there could even be, I feel like with the moon, there could even be this emotional tie to him. Like there's a connection there. It's not just this abstract thing. It's like they really feel it. And that's kind of like, when somebody falls in love with a celebrity, they may really feel like they have this relationship with that person. And we can look at the 11th house, because it's the house of technology, as all of these things like the internet, but movies and anything that the collective, like the pulse of the collective. And when you have the moon there could be this, I think of like fame, because people have an emotional link to you, and it's like you're kind of front and center there. And also through your art that you have achieved this. Going back, he has, in the 9th house, he has Chiron. It's in Virgo, which is interesting. I've never encountered that, so I'd have to think about that. But off the top of my head, breaking it down, looking at the sign that Chiron is in, but also the house placement. For the house placement, this is Sagittarius's domain. This is the God house in astrology, the 9th house. Sagittarius is ruled by Jupiter, and Jupiter is the ancient ruler of Pisces, and he has Jupiter in the 12th house. So it's kind of like, I forgot what they call that, mutually receptive. I don't know if that's actually mutually receptive, but there's some kind of connection there. But what I think, first of all, I think that Pisces is the most spiritual sign overall. Whether that person ever steps foot in the church. As a matter of fact, I feel like this could be the position of somebody who, let's say they're raised as a born-again Christian, and they start to have all these visions, like somebody who, like Edgar Cayce, the famous psychic from the 1900s, who was born in the Bible Belt, saw his dead grandfather when he was 4 years old, and that didn't go over so well. When, not to pick on fundamentalist Christianity, but that was, that's just how it goes. There's like a lot of suspicion about like, is this of God, this kind of gift or this kind of ability? So maybe he had something to that effect in his life. I don't know. I don't know what kind of religious background he comes from, But that's one of the things that I could think of. But also, and so it's kind of like reconciling that, because Pisces is a mutable water sign, and Pisces is going to tend to be very influenced by their surroundings. And because of that sun-moon combination, I could see him being very prone to maybe doing what was expected of him. Although, again, Scorpio rising, I don't know, if that would change anything. Possibly not, because I think Scorpio is a pretty traditional sign. So I think that it would tend to favor family harmony. But, the Aquarius energy is rebellious, and so is Sag, and his ascendant is 1 degree from Sag. I think, and this is Sag's house, the 9th house. So I think that as he gets older, he will come more and more into his own. He just went through his Saturn return, and Saturn isn't done with him, because Saturn is going back into Pisces later in 2024, when I'm sorry, 2025. I'm recording this in the summer of 2025, or you could say June of 2025. And he actually has a conjunction between his sun and Saturn. So, he has Saturn in Pisces, the karmic planet in the karmic sign. I have it as well, and I'm going through I did go through my second Saturn return. And this is basically why he's been struggling in the last few years. As of this recording, like I said, in mid 2025, he's been struggling for the past couple of years, because he was in his late 20s now, because he was born in 1994. He is already 31 years old. I can't even wrap my brain around that. So I usually don't do these kind of predictive things with these celebrity charts, because I want to make it very like an evergreen, they call them, where it doesn't have any expiration date type of video. But I'm just noting, since he has been in the public eye, he is going to have a solar eclipse in Virgo on September 21st, 2025. And that should activate something career-wise for him. But he's also right now going through Jupiter in his 8th house. And this is going to continue into 2026, because even he has some of Leo in his 8th house. The 8th house is Scorpio's domain. Scorpio's his ascendant. And Jupiter blows up anything that, when it goes into a certain house, it expands that area. The 8th house can be secrets. So, and Jupiter being the ruler of Sagittarius, which is this sign that just kind of like is about truth, there could be something that happens that comes out that was hidden for a long time. And that could be connected to his eclipse in the 10th house of career. So it is way cool, because that may be a liberating time for him in the second half of 2025. We'll see how that plays out. All right, I think I'm going to leave it there. I hope that you enjoyed this. If you would like a private reading, like a chart analysis, or any other type of reading that I offer, please Click on the link below so you can see the type of readings that I do. Thanks for listening. Bye.